Welcome to Justice Insight Cam. We feature genuine bodycam footage highlighting complex police encounters. Our goal is to look beyond the screen, analyzing the legal framework, factual events, and educational value of every interaction. Let's discover the truth behind the badge.
Alright, you've heard that before, don't reach.
I'm law enforcement. I can show my credentials.
Turn around. Hands behind your back.
Please verify. Call my department.
Turn around, hands behind your back. The voice is flat, professional, the kind of tone that tries to sound routine, even when it isn't. Under the gas station canopy, fluorescent lights paint everything a sickly white. Puddles on the concrete, a line of cars at the pumps, the vapor rising from warm engines into cold morning air. A young man stands beside his sedan with a receipt in one hand and a credit card in the other. He isn't running, he isn't arguing, he isn't even holding anything that looks remotely like a weapon. But three agents in dark jackets have formed a half circle around him, as if he's already decided to fight. "Sir," the man says, steady, "I'm a police officer. I can show you my credentials." One agent doesn't even blink. "We've heard that before," he says. The young man reaches slowly toward his wallet, too carefully to be threatening, too practiced to be improvised. And that's when the agent steps in hard, grabbing his wrist. "Don't move," the agent snaps. Metal cuffs close with a sound that feels louder than it should. Then the young man says his name, and the moment the agents should stop, they don't. Because what's happening here isn't about a name. It's about a profile, a suspicion, a system that moves faster than verification. Weeks later, the government will write a check for $14.6 million, and people will ask the same question in 100 different ways. How did a man buying gasoline end up in immigration detention when he was a 24-year-old police lieutenant? And why was a badge useless when it mattered most? To protect privacy, names, or locations, and some details are reconstructed. This is a fictionalized composite inspired by recurring patterns reported in wrongful detention claims and civil rights litigation. His name is Lieutenant Andre Holloway, 24, and yes, Lieutenant, not a title given away for good attendance. He earned it the hard way: exams, performance reviews, a department that had been hemorrhaging talent and needed leaders who could handle pressure without becoming it. Andre didn't come from a family of cops. He came from a family that feared sirens. His mother worked double shifts at a nursing home. His father drove trucks until his back gave out. Their rules were simple: keep your head down, get your education, don't give anyone a reason. Andre was the kid who followed rules, not because he loved them, but because he understood what happened when people assumed you didn't. He won a scholarship. He studied criminal justice. He joined a city department that promised community policing and ran on overtime and exhaustion. He was good at the parts of the job most people don't celebrate: paperwork, patience, listening. He could take a volatile room and calm it without making it about his ego. And in a department full of older officers who'd seen too much and trusted too little, that steadiness made him stand out. When he made lieutenant at 24, the announcement traveled fast. Some people called him a prodigy. Others called it politics. Andre didn't care. He cared about his mother seeing his name in a newsletter and crying quietly at the kitchen table. He cared about his younger brother, believing there was a way to wear authority without becoming cruel. He cared about the weight of the badge. The irony is that the same badge, the thing he thought would protect him, validate him, stop misunderstandings, would become useless the moment it mattered most. The morning this happened started like a checklist. Andre finished a graveyard shift at 6:10 a.m. He'd spent the night dealing with a car accident, a domestic call, and a welfare check on an elderly man who'd fallen in his apartment and couldn't get up. Nothing headline-worthy, just the quiet, heavy work that keeps a city from slipping. He wore plain clothes because he was off duty. Dark jeans, a hoodie under a jacket, a ball cap pulled low because he hadn't slept. His gun was locked in a secured case in the trunk, following department policy for off-duty transport. His badge and credentials were in his wallet, and he was supposed to do one last thing before going home: stop for gas, because later he was driving his mother to an appointment. He pulled into a gas station just off the highway, the kind that gets a steady flow of commuters, construction workers, nurses, delivery drivers, students driving back to campus. The sun was barely up. The air had that early morning bite that makes your lungs feel awake before your brain does. Andre put the nozzle in the tank, stared at the pump numbers climbing, and let his shoulders drop for the first time all night. Then he heard the tires, fast, 2 vehicles, unmarked SUVs, rolling in like they belonged there. They stopped not near the door, not by the air pump, but directly behind Andre's car, Axe blocking his exit. Doors opened, 3 men stepped out. Dark jackets, no visible local insignia. The kind of body language that says, before a word is spoken, we're in charge now. Andre's first thought wasn't fear, it was confusion, because he's a lieutenant. He knows how operations look, he knows how stops are supposed to happen, and this looked like someone running a play without checking the field. One of the agents approached. "Sir," he said, "step away from the vehicle." Andre complied instantly, hands visible. "What's going on?" Andre asked. The agent looked him up and down. "Name," he said. "Andre Holloway," Andre replied. The agent's eyes narrowed. "You have identification?" "Yes," Andre said. "I'm law enforcement. I can show you my—" "Don't reach," the agent snapped. Andre paused. He'd heard that command before. He'd given it before. He understood why it exists, but he also understood the trap it creates. You're required to prove you're safe, but you're punished for moving to prove it. So he did the safest thing. He asked permission. "My wallet is in my back pocket," he said. "May I retrieve it slowly?" The agent didn't answer. He turned his head slightly, like he was listening to an earpiece. Then he said, "Turn around." Andre's heartbeat ticked up. "Why?" he asked. "Turn around," the agent repeated. Andre tried again. "Agent, I'm a police lieutenant. If there's an issue, call my department. I can—" And that's when the agent stepped in, grabbed his wrist, and cuffed him. Andre felt the metal close. He felt the humiliation hit second. The first feeling was something else. Not anger, not fear. As a kind of disbelief, because he'd just complied, calmly, and the system still chose force. "You're making a mistake," Andre said, voice low. The agent didn't respond. He led Andre toward one of the SUVs as if he were an object being moved from point A to point B. Andre turned his head, scanning the gas station. A woman at the next pump had frozen mid-swipe with her card. A man inside the convenience store was staring through the glass. Someone's phone was lifted, capturing a few seconds. Andre thought of one thing, sharp and immediate. If my own people see this later, will they believe me? The agents identified themselves only after Andre was in the back seat. Immigration enforcement. Andre's mind tried to reconcile it. Immigration? Him. He was born in the United States. He had a birth certificate. He had a passport. He had a city badge. He had a lieutenant's shield on his office wall. So why immigration? The agent in the front passenger seat asked a question that made everything click in the worst way. "Where are you from?" he asked. Andre stared. "From here," he said. The agent's tone hardened. "Where are you really from?" There it was, not a legal question, a perception question. Andre kept his voice controlled. "I'm an American citizen," he said. "I'm a police lieutenant. Call my supervisor. I'm asking you to verify." The agent glanced back. "You can tell it to the officer at processing," he said. Processing, as if Andre were a case file, as if the outcome had already been decided. They drove, not to a local station, not to a precinct, to a federal holding facility that sat in an industrial area where the air smelled like diesel and chain-link fences cut the horizon into squares. Andrei's phone had been taken, his belt had been removed, his shoelaces had been pulled out as if he were a risk to himself, and the entire time he kept repeating the same sentence. Verify my identity. The answer was always the same. Later. Here is the first open loop that matters. Why did they target him? Because the official reason, at first, sounded clean. A match in a database. A possible removable individual tied to a name similar to Andrei's. A tip about someone buying gas who fit a description. But none of those explanations can survive the simplest test. If you have uncertainty, you verify before you detain, unless the detention is the point. At the facility, Andrei was processed like everyone else. Fingerprints, photos, a wristband, a number. He tried again to show credentials. The officer behind the counter didn't look. Your property is logged, the officer said. Andrei felt a flash of anger, not because he was being treated like a criminal, because he was being treated like an inconvenience. He asked to call his department. Denied. He asked to call an attorney. After intake, they said. Hours passed. Then they put him in a holding room with benches bolted to the floor and a television mounted high, playing a channel nobody watched. Men sat with their arms crossed. Some looked exhausted. Some looked scared. Some looked numb. Andrei realized something he never fully understood from the outside. In a place like this, time is a weapon. Not because it hurts physically, because it dissolves certainty. By the time you're allowed to speak, you're already smaller. By the time someone listens, you're already tired. By the time the system checks what it should have checked first, you've already lost something you can't name. Meanwhile, in the city, Andrei's absence created a ripple. At 8:05 a.m., his mother texted. No response. At 8:20, she called. Voicemail. At 9 o'clock, his captain called. Voicemail. Andrei didn't miss calls. He didn't vanish. So by 9:30, his captain, Captain Sloan, knew something was wrong. Sloan was old school. He believed in chain of command, but he also believed in finding his people. He sent an officer to Andrei's apartment. No answer. He checked hospitals. Nothing. Then a patrol officer remembered something that seemed small. Captain, he said, Andrei mentioned stopping for gas off the highway. Sloan pulled traffic camera footage through a contact in the city's traffic unit. And there it was, a figure in a hoodie, hands up, unmarked SUVs. A man being loaded into the back seat. Sloan stared at the screen. His first thought was a kidnapping. Then he saw the jackets, and he felt something colder, federal. Sloan called every number he had. He didn't get answers, because federal agencies don't answer to captains. And this is where the badge becomes useless, not because it has no power, but because it has no jurisdiction. Andrei was a lieutenant, but in the wrong building, titles are just noise. By late afternoon, Andrei was still in detention. He had finally been allowed one phone call. He called his captain. Sloan answered on the first ring. "Where are you?" Sloan demanded. Andrei's voice came out tight. "They have me in ICE custody," he said. Sloan went silent. Then, "On what grounds?" "Racial profiling," Andrei said, not as rhetoric as fact. "They won't verify. I showed credentials. They didn't care." Sloan's voice turned controlled. "Listen to me," he said. "Don't argue. Don't escalate. We're getting you out." Andrei swallowed. "I'm trying," he said, "but they're treating me like I'm lying." Sloan exhaled hard. "Hold on," he said. And then Sloan did something most people never get. He mobilized a department. He called the city's legal counsel. He called a local congressman's office. He called a federal liaison he'd met at a joint task force training. He pushed. Hard. but every call hit the same wall. Or processing. Verification takes time. Wait for the system. Sloane's patience snapped. The system has my lieutenant, he said, and it has no lawful reason. Still, no immediate release, because the second open loop had opened. This wasn't just an error. It was a refusal to correct the error once it was known. Andre spent the night in detention. The room was cold enough to keep you awake even when your body begged for sleep. He lay on a thin mat and stared at the ceiling, listening to coughs, footsteps, a distant door slamming. He thought about the irony that he had held people in custody before. He had booked suspects. He had transported detainees. He had stood on the other side of the line, and he realized how much power lives in the small decisions. Whether you call someone sir or subject, whether you verify or assume, whether you treat a person like a human or like a file. The next morning, Andre was brought to an interview room. A case officer sat across from him with a laptop. The officer asked questions that made Andre feel like he was in the wrong movie. What is your country of birth? United States, Andre said. Parents' country of birth? United States, Andre repeated. Do you have documentation? Yes, Andre said. In my wallet. Also my department can provide. The officer cut him off. We're waiting on confirmation, she said. Andre leaned forward. From who? He asked. The officer's eyes flicked. From our system, she said. Andre stared at her. So you're waiting on a computer to tell you what I'm telling you, he said. The officer didn't respond, because she didn't have to. Not yet. By day 3, the story began to leak, not to national news, to local channels, a clip from the gas station, a statement from the police department. Lieutenant Andre Holloway has been detained by federal agents. We are seeking clarification. Students from a nearby community college organized a small protest outside the facility. Signs, chants, cold wind. Andre couldn't see them, but he could hear the distant echo of voices through the walls at certain times of day. It reminded him he still existed outside the system. Then the twist arrived, not in a dramatic reveal, in a document. Raj Patel-style truth, a paper trail. Andre's attorney, Maya Drayton, a civil rights lawyer with a quiet voice and relentless focus, obtained the underlying basis for the match. It wasn't Andre. It was another man with a similar name. Older, different state, a prior immigration issue. The match was not a match. It was a database ambiguity treated as certainty. And the moment Andre told them he was law enforcement, the agents didn't slow down. They sped up, because in their minds, a badge didn't mean innocence. It meant complication. It meant paperwork. It meant scrutiny. And if you've ever wondered why systems resist correction, it's often because correction is effort, and effort feels like admitting wrongdoing. On day 5, a supervisor finally intervened. Not because the truth was found, because pressure became expensive. A federal liaison called Sloane. Captain, he said, "Honey, we have a situation." Sloane's voice was ice. "You have my lieutenant," he said. The liaison cleared his throat. "There appears to have been a mistaken identity issue," he said. Sloane didn't celebrate. He didn't thank him. He asked one question. "When is he walking out?" The liaison hesitated. "Soon," he said. Soon, that word again, as if freedom is a scheduling issue. Andre was released later that evening. No press conference, no apology. A simple form and a bag of belongings. He stepped out into cold air and blinking floodlights. Sloane was there, waiting. So was Maya. So was Andre's mother, bundled in a coat too thin for the wind, eyes red from crying and anger. Andre hugged her carefully, because he felt, suddenly, fragile. A strange feeling for a man who had spent his life being strong. His mother whispered into his shoulder. "They didn't listen," she said. Andre swallowed. No, he said. They didn't. For a few weeks, the government tried to treat it like a closed chapter, a mistake, a misidentification, a resolved issue. But Andre couldn't close it. He returned to work and found himself reacting to things he never reacted to before. A sudden knock at the door, a radio burst, a car pulling up behind him at a stoplight. His heart would jump, his hands would sweat, his mind would go back to the gas station canopy, the cold lights, the gunless hands raised anyway. He sat in his office and stared at his lieutenant's badge on the shelf. Same metal, same weight, different meaning, because the badge hadn't saved him. And if it couldn't save him, who did it save? That question kept him awake. It kept him angry, and it kept him determined. Maya filed the lawsuit, not because Andre wanted money, because Andre wanted the record. The case alleged unlawful detention, violations of constitutional rights, and discriminatory profiling. The government responded with denial. They claimed agents acted on information. They claimed procedures were followed. They claimed there was no intent. But intent is not the only thing that matters. Impact matters. And the impact was measurable. 5 days of detention, humiliation, loss of liberty, emotional trauma, damage to reputation, and a public trust fracture that couldn't be patched with statements. Discovery opened the internal communications. And this is where the story becomes historic. Because the emails and messages revealed something the government didn't want to say out loud. One agent wrote, early in the chain, "Subject claims he's police, probably lying." Another replied, "Keep him, verify later. Keep him, not confirm, not check quickly. Keep, as if detention is the default and freedom is the thing you earn." Then, a note about appearance. "He fits the profile," one message said. No mention of behavior, no mention of crime, just profile. Maya didn't need to editorialize. She just put the messages in front of the court, and the court did what courts do when the paper trail is too loud. It listened. The government offered a settlement early, confidential, no admission, a number that would make most people's lives change. Andre refused. He wasn't being stubborn, he was being strategic. Because confidential settlements make stories disappear. And Andre didn't want his story to disappear. He wanted it to become a warning, a precedent, a cost. So the case moved forward. Maya brought expert testimony, database error analysis, policy comparisons, use of force escalation patterns, and, crucially, statistical evidence showing that in similar operations, men with Andre's appearance were disproportionately stopped and questioned. Not because of crimes, because of assumptions. The government tried to narrow it. This was an isolated incident, they argued, but the record didn't feel isolated. It felt familiar. At trial, the judge asked a question that cut through everything. "When did you first have reason to believe Mr. Holloway was a US citizen?" An agent answered. "After the initial detention," he said. The judge's brow furrowed. "Why was he not released immediately upon verification?" The agent hesitated. "Administrative delays," he said. Administrative, a word that tries to make harm sound like paperwork. Maya stood. "Your Honor," she said, "they didn't verify before detaining him, and once they had information that contradicted their assumption, they treated it as an inconvenience rather than a correction." The judge looked at the agent. "Is that accurate?" she asked. The agent didn't answer, not because he couldn't, because he didn't want to. That silence mattered, because in court, silence becomes its own admission. The government's risk calculation changed, not because they suddenly found empathy, because a jury was watching. And juries don't like seeing people punished for being who they are. They don't like seeing a badge ignored. They don't like seeing "verify later" written like policy. So the government settled $14.6 million, a number big enough to make headlines, A number big enough to make internal meetings tense. A number big enough to be called historic. The settlement included reforms, updated verification requirements, limits on detention pending identity confirmation, training revisions, oversight commitments, not perfect, not permanent, but written on the record. And that, in cases like this, is the real outcome. Money is a measurement. Policy is the scar. After the settlement, reporters asked Andre if he felt vindicated. Andre paused. Because vindication is a strange word when the cost was 5 days of your life and a new fear that lives in your chest. He said something simple. "I want them to verify before they destroy someone," he said. Then he added the line that stayed with people. "My badge didn't save me," he said, "so I'm fighting for the people who don't have one." If you were in that gas station lot and you watched a calm man get cuffed for buying gasoline, if you watched him say he was law enforcement and still get pushed into an SUV, what would you have assumed? Would you have believed him? Or would you have believed the uniforms? That's the quiet danger of authority. It doesn't just control people, it controls narratives. Andre returned to campus events and community meetings, but he spoke differently now. He didn't talk about trust as a slogan. He talked about verification as a discipline. He talked about how quickly suspicion becomes a cage. He talked about how a system can swallow you even when you know the rules. And late at night, when his mother would call to ask if he was home safe, Andre would answer, "Yes," and stare at the ceiling for a moment longer than he used to. Because safety, he learned, is not just a place. It's a process. And when the process starts with profiling and ends with paperwork, the only thing that pulls truth back into the room is evidence. Logs, emails, timestamps, the unglamorous trail that proves what someone tried to deny. $14.6 million didn't buy Andre's peace, but it bought something else. A warning written in the only language institutions reliably understand: cost. And maybe, just maybe, it bought enough friction in the system to make the next agent pause at a gas pump, look at a person like a person, and ask the question that should always come before the handcuffs. Can you show me your ID? Because when a badge is useless, verification is all that's left, and verification, done early, is the difference between a mistake and a nightmare.
Thank you for watching today's video. If our findings brought you a new outlook, please like, share, and subscribe to Justice Insight Cam. Stay updated, stay secure, and we will return soon with another comprehensive report.